one of the key aspects to a lawnmower is making sure that it's tuned up and ready to go each spring. And we have a couple of the common cutting parts of the mower deck for your average lawn tractor that we're going to just compare some new blades, spindles, and pulleys to some old worn out ones.
So starting here, we got some mower blades. Typically what I look for when I'm working on a mower blade is I look at the edge. You can see here that it's starting to make this little V, and this is one part that I usually point out to a customer that this is the time when you're going to replace those blades, because what you see is that wear and tear comes from cutting sandy grounds, cutting wet grass, and just wear and tear. And then if you compare it to a new one, this is what your typical edge will look like. You got a nice square edge. It's about an 1/8 inch thick. And if I stand them next to each other, you can see how much is actually gone and that edge is taken care of from cutting. We have a couple different types of blades that they offer. These are blades for a 42-inch mower deck. These are mulching blades. We have a lot of customers that like to mulch their grass because they prefer the cut that it gives. They have the double edge on here, and that allows your grass to be cut finer, and it actually helps fertilize your ground better and decompose.
And then you don't have to worry about that grass shooting on the side either, right?
Yep. On there, now we offer a mulch on demand. So what you could do is, with the flip of a lever, you can mulch, keep your grass underneath. It won't shoot out the side, kind of like your windrowing. Or, you can open up that lever and cut like your typical mower. The next blade I have here, this is a bagging blade. They call it a high lift. And if you compare the lift on these blades, you can see this has more of a hump to it. And what that allows is, so on your 42-inch decks, that allows the grass to flow into your bagger much easier. Otherwise, a lot of times you can have clumping of the grass, or it can plug your chute on your bagger. As we go down again, another example, these are severely worn out blades. I mean, these are probably 2 or 3 years past when they should have been changed. I mean, when you put them on your deck, it probably was leaving strips and, a poor cut quality as well. Next one I have here is I have simple pulleys. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it on the phone or on the video. You can kind of hear the bearing when you spin it. Those are the balls in the bearing that are worn out. Over time, these pulleys wear, and you can actually hear almost like a howl sound on your mower deck. Compared to when you have your new pulley, it turns smoothly, you don't hear anything, and your mower deck has a much better quality sound.
So could that cause your belt to break with bad spindles? Or
over
bad
time,
pulleys?
if these bearings go bad, your bearings could actually fall apart. You could throw the belt off. It could break, tear the belt. It could cause, premature failure of other components. Maybe your blades, your spindles, even your belt could cause premature failure just because you didn't change that pulley when it should have been changed. Compared to our spindles here, I have a spindle here that is completely worn out. If you look real close, the bearing inside here is actually falling apart and completely worn. Compared to, so now it will barely spin, it's actually bent, the spindle in here.
You gotta turn that really hard.
You can't even get it to turn. And on your deck it'll run, but you'll have uneven cutting. You'll hear a real bad howl sound, maybe even a banging. It might hit the other blades. Compared to when you replace with a new one, they spin so much freely. You'll have an even cut, a level cut, and a better quality looking lawn. I have a couple other spindles here. This one, you can actually listen closely. I don't know if you'll hear it on the video, but you can hear that. That noise is the bearings inside this wearing. So inside this spindle, there's 2 bearings on each side and then a shaft that runs through. Over time, those balls in that bearing will wear, and that's that noise that you hear. When you start hearing a noise like that, it's typically when I'll say it's time to replace your spindles. Now, if I take this new one, you won't even hear that noise. They're greased, and the new bearings don't even make a sound. And again, you'll have that howling sound. Your deck will be louder than it should be, and something just might not even sound right. And typically the complaints that we see is poor cut quality, an odd noise from the deck, and that's when we start looking at these components, pulleys, spindles, blades, and they're all components that should be monitored almost on a yearly basis on your lawn tractor.
Now I see there's grease fittings on these spindles. Some models have grease fittings. How can that help with the longevity of the spindles?
So when they got grease zerks on them, like some of them are on the side and some of them are on the top of your spindle shaft. Typically, we'll grease them once a year, but honestly, it depends on how many hours you're putting on this machine. A good greasing every 25 to 50 hours does not hurt. You don't want to over-grease them, but you do want to give them a couple pumps of grease every so often so that your bearings last. If you over-grease them, you'll blow out the seals, and again, that would cause premature failure again. But greasing is definitely a high topic to keep an eye on.